What's going on YouTube? It's Mike here. Today guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 6. Which one is Apple going to release? So the reason why I want to touch on this topic of whether Apple's going to be releasing soon an iPhone 5S or an iPhone 6 is because we are just less than 2 months away from WWDC 2013. If you don't know what that is, it is Worldwide Apple Developer Conference that always takes place in the first week of June every year. And pretty much Apple just talks about the latest version of iOS, which could be iOS 7. If you missed that, I talked about that in my other video. The newest version of macOS X, and so on. So obviously we're going to be expecting that at WWDC. But something that Apple hasn't done in a couple of years now is announce a new iPhone. And it used to be a tradition, especially while Steve Jobs used to be CEO, that they used to do a couple of years back. So, you know, some people are wondering if it's going to come back around, but I'm going to make the video anyways just to talk about to see if we see anything, or if they'll hold off to the fall like they've been doing with the last two iPhones. It really depends what we're going to see. Aside from that, the main topic of this video is to talk about whether Apple's going to be releasing the next generation of the iPhone 5, which could be the iPhone 5S, or if Apple's going to scrap the whole idea of making second generations of the same phone, kind of like they did for the iPhone 3G and the iPhone 4 when they did 3GS and 4S. And just make a whole new phone considered the iPhone 6. Now, let's think about this for a second. Now, Apple just made a new design of the iPhone last September. And so they pretty much took the 4, they thinned it out, they made, you know, the colors following with the aluminum bands around, and they changed up the whole back design to two-tone. So they made it look pretty nice. Now, a lot of people like this design, and quite honestly, I can't see Apple changing it soon enough. So, if you ask me, I think what Apple's going to come out to is an iPhone 5S, more an iPhone 6. We'll get to that in a minute. But what they're probably going to do if they do an iPhone 5S, you know, they might bump the camera up a little bit, the processor, which we currently have A6, so maybe it'll go up to A6X or even A7. Never heard of it before, you know. They could just keep going up with these numbers. Who knows what'll happen. And then, you know, there might just be a couple more spec upgrades. There's currently a gig of RAM on the iPhone 5, so maybe they'll bring it up to 1.5 gigs, you know, to compare up to a lot of the smartphones now. And maybe they'll even put in some capabilities to work with the latest version of iOS, which will be iOS 7. Like I talked about in my other video, you could definitely check it out. There's going to be a link in the description. You know, since they're going to potentially, or rumored, that Johnny Ive is going to be taking over and completely redesigning iOS, you know, there's a chance that they may have to do a couple things internally to the phone in order to get some of the fully packed features in iOS 7. Obviously, iOS 7 will still work with all of the older devices, the iPhone 5, the 4S, you know, the older iPod Touches and stuff like that, whatever runs iOS 6 now. Of course, they could stop support for some, who knows. But it really depends, you know, on what they do. They might have one or two extra features in iOS 7 that could need some hardware changes in the iPhone 5S. And one of the things that I think is really cool if they could include in the next generation iPhone is actually making colors available, just like they did for the iPod Touch 5G. Now, this doesn't really involve changing the design. All they really have to do is change the tone of the back of the phone itself and around the aluminum band too, so like blue, pink, red, yellow, kind of like the colors that we have now for all of the iPods available, because, you know, they're all color. They're not just a single color or black and white, except the iPod Classic. Like the Nanos, the Shuffles, and the Touches, they're all different colors on the back, and quite honestly, they look pretty nice. And with all of the colors that other smartphone companies offer, I don't see why Apple wouldn't be following up on this. There have been a lot of pictures out there, as you can see here, that have been circulating that could potentially be the new colors of the iPhone. Now let's go ahead and jump ahead to the iPhone 6. Now this hasn't been touched on the rumor too much. I think the one that's been most rumored is the iPhone 5S, because that's what Apple's been following up with. I cannot see, to be honest with you, I can't see Apple jumping already to the iPhone 6. Because what are they going to do? You know what I mean?
They have to do something awesome to it to get people to buy it.
They have to do something internally, big time, or even externally to the iPhone 6, kind of like a design change or revamp, in order for it to be considered the real next generation. So I think Apple's going to hold off on the whole iPhone 6 idea, but if, you know, Apple decides to go with this, I cannot see why, again, but they'd probably be changing up the design just a little bit. They'd probably make it a little bit thinner. There have been a lot of concepts shown. You know, they could go a little bit bigger with the screen. Definitely something that they could do, whether they release 5S or iPhone 6, is fix the battery life. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. just to make it a little bit better. You know, they could make the full back, as colors follow, they could make the whole thing and not do the whole two-tone design that they did with the iPhone 5, you know. From what I've heard, a lot of people like the iPhone 5, so I don't know why Apple would kind of ditch the design that they worked on so hard, you know, for so long when they had to come out with the iPhone 4S, so it kind of gave them extra time to work on the iPhone 5, and quite honestly, they came out with an awesome product, an awesome design, and it would really disappoint me if Apple just decided to scratch the whole idea and move on to something new. You know, unless, of course, that new iPhone 6 that we could potentially be seeing had an even better, lighter, and more, you know, convenient use to it, or much nicer design, much more elegant, beautiful, and so on. I'm just hoping that Apple makes the right choice and goes with what they feel is good, because honestly, that's going to depend on the user itself. You know, most people didn't upgrade to the iPhone 4S. I mean, a lot of people did, and a lot of people were getting that as their first iPhone, but most people on the iPhone 4 saw no reason to go to the 4S because, you know, there really wasn't anything new. And I've said it many times in my videos before, Apple always has to target something on the iPhones, and they have to do something awesome to it in order to get people to buy it. And that's what happened with the 3GS and the 4S. So if Apple's going to be doing this iPhone 5S, you know, it's really a battle whether they're going to be losing money, just because it's nothing great compared to the iPhone 5. You know, many iPhone 5 customers won't be upgrading, and that's where the iPhone 6 really comes in. It all depends what Apple wants to do. They want to make their decision well, because once the phone's released, they can't take it down 2 days after of making much little sales that they expected and say, oops, we goofed. We're going to give you an iPhone 6 instead. That would suck. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I just wanted to give you my full opinions on what's going to happen versus whether Apple's going to be releasing an iPhone 5S or an iPhone 6. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Quite honestly, I'd be fine with either one. I'm leaning more towards the iPhone 5S just because I think it's very Apple-like. I think that's what they're going to wind up doing, since they've been doing it for 2 years. And again, I really don't think they want to leap so much forward to the next iPhone. After they spent so much time designing the iPhone 5, I just don't see them ditching the whole idea, but who knows what'll happen. We're also going to have to wait till WWDC 2013, or if they just want to announce iOS 7 and the next version of OS X, well, we're going to have to wait until the fall for the next iPhone announcement, and that'll really depend on you know, more time to develop the next iPhone, and it could potentially make the 5S even better and have more reasons to put in better features and a better target to buy it, or they could just get more time to do an iPhone 6. You know, it's been less than a year since they've released the iPhone 5, so it really comes down to what they're thinking over in Cupertino. If you guys like this video, please leave some comments below on your thoughts. Of course, rate, give this video a thumbs up, and click the subscribe button below. Alright guys, that's it for this one, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace. What I think it's going to be their wind-up doing. What the f*** did I just say? So much time designing the new iPhone. Why am I throwing my hand over here?